Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back from the Optc video, and in today's video, we're taking a look at the new level limit break, level 5 Stampede Luffy, and the buffs that he got, and taking him into some content, having a chat about the buffs to this unit and how effective he is in content moving forward. Because this character is fairly old now, obviously with the film Stampede Celebration being like, what, 2019 or something like that. I honestly cannot remember off the top of my head. I just remember it being quite a long time ago now. This particular character was an absolute monster when he first dropped. He's got 10 turns of paralysis removal, 10 turns of despair removal built into his kit. And even still to this day, that utility as a captain is still very, very good. So I'm going to take him into some of the new arenas, some of the like GARP challenges and stuff like that, and sort of see how he fares with some of the new characters that have come out, some hybrid options, some other subs and stuff like that. But let's have a chat about what he does as a captain. As you can see here, we're starting the content over here on Arena Mihawk. It's a very int-based content. So I decided to put together a mono Psy team to actually take this on. It's not like a no-stall team or anything like that, but it's double Stampede Luffy, and I thought we'd sort of start here. But his captain reduces his own cooldown by 3 turns at the start of the quest, which is actually very good, because you can actually get his special ready to go by stage 3 of these types of arenas very, very quickly. He boosts Psy, Dex, and Strength characters' attack by 4.5, reduces damage taken by 20%, and then boosts his own attack by 5.25 instead. Makes Strength, Psy, and Dex orbs have beneficial slots for those characters. It reduces despair and paralysis by 10 turns, and if your HP is 30% or below, boost the chain multiplier by 1.2 times. So that ability to get the 1.2 times chain multiplier isn't exactly like, it's just like a nice little cherry on top, because getting like to low captain multipliers is a little bit challenging. However, I do think I managed to get it in this particular video when we do come up against the next arena, but we'll have to wait and see once we get there. But very strong captain ability. With his limit break expansion, he doesn't get a buff. They might give him a buff moving forward, but I don't see them actually doing so. If they haven't done it now, I don't see them doing it moving forward, because like this is sort of like the golden opportunity to do so. But nevertheless, a 5.25 captain to himself is very, very strong. 4.5 to everything else is actually fairly decent, and hybriding this guy up with his utility with stuff like Ace and Yamato, getting the blind and special blind removal for like some like color-based teams, because Ace Yamato are strength and dex. You can also hybrid him up with something like regular Yamato for some blind removal. Like, you can do a lot of really, really cool things with this particular unit, and building teams can be very, very easy, because you can do like obviously Psy-based teams, you can do like fighter-based teams, you could even do like color-based teams. However, he does have some very good subs, but he doesn't exactly work perfectly with. However, he's still a very, very good captain nonetheless. So this is him finishing off Arena Mihawk. Obviously, we have some pretty notable subs, like Verse Shanks was like built for this content as well. We have some pretty crazy supports on here too, but it was a lot of fun to like go back and try and beat this. Not as quickly as possible, but like still like getting through it fairly fast, and just showcasing what like absolute monstrosity he can do with his special, which we'll talk about once we take on the next arena against Hawkins. Alright, so onto Arena Hawkins now. A much more challenging arena, in my opinion. One of the, probably the hardest arena going around at the moment. Especially from the Recollective Archive anyway. Especially if you're not using a friend captain, Frankie. However, I did want to highlight Frankie in this video, as well as Ace Yamato, who I have as a sub. Both of these units are very, very good hybrid options, as well as one other, which you guys will see in the next part of the video. Because Luffy actually works amazingly with Frankie, as Frankie can remove attack down and burn in his kit, and he's a Psy and a Dex unit, which falls perfectly for the colors of Luffy. With Luffy as well, he actually is a fighter powerhouse unit, so he gets both the primary and secondary class for Frankie, so he works quite nicely. I always forget that he's not a free spirit, which is a little bit annoying, but nevertheless, powerhouse is still very, very strong. On to Luffy's special though. As you guys saw in the Mihawk clip, he absolutely just decimates content when you actually drop his special, especially older content. He's very self-reliant and he's very self-sufficient, and hybriding him up to get his utility and then just have him just decimate something like a stage 3 boss is very, very effective. His special at level limit break 5 deals 200 times his attack and non-type damage to all enemies, changes his own slot into Psy, boosts his attack and orbs by 3.25 for 2 turns, boosts his own base attack by 1000 for 2 turns, and for 3 turns, buffs any color affinity boost by 0.25 that is launched by Psy, Dex, and Strength characters, including supports if they are Psy, Dex, or Strength. So he basically gives that little Odin plus buff that you guys will actually see. And if you use a color affinity buff after you use his special, it just means that you'll actually get the extra 0.25 on top of that. He's basically just like a self-proccing Toki. However, his multipliers are a little bit lower. 3.25, in my opinion, is probably still a little bit low for what he can actually do. However, if you put something like Sabo support on this guy, I didn't really find a way to actually make that work in this video, but if you use something like Sabo support, I was talking to the King Toadski, and he was like, he has like 6,000 base attack, which is absolutely monstrous, and hitting for like 50 mil with like type neutral, which is just absolutely crazy. So you can do some really cool stuff with this guy. He'll just decimate stuff like stage 3 bosses. However, he's still only a 4.5 times captain to your entire crew. The big reason you'll be using him is in some sort of hybrid sense, like you can see here, when you hybrid him up with something like Frankie or Ace Yamato or Yamato, just to get like extra utility in your captain. And that way just like frees up a lot of slots on your team to allow for easier team building, really. And that's what makes Ace Yamato so good. It's what makes the General Frankie V2 so good, and it's what makes this guy so damn strong as well. As a sailor, if you're using him as a sailor for whatever reason, he makes recovery in tandem beneficial for himself, and then he has a bunch of rumble stuff that we're actually not going to touch on. So, very, very strong level limit break plus. Very good buff that the character actually needed. And in this particular clip here, I think this is where you'll actually see us get that chain multiplier buff. But like I said, he's very reliant on giving himself damage. In this particular fight, we're really just using him for stuff like his despair removal on Hawkins at the end. We're using him because he has a lot of very good supports. Being a Luffy character, he can use stuff like Brook for damage reduction, you can see here. He has stuff like the Brûlé support. He has Sabo support, the one that gives him base stats, as well as... Did we actually get it? I don't think we got it. I don't think we were at low enough HP. No, we should have been. Did we get it? Chain multiplier buff? I don't think we did. I think we're just a little bit too high HP to actually get it. However, we did actually need a tank of death shot here, so unfortunately we kind of needed to get some healing with our supports. But didn't have those supports, I imagine we probably would have got it there. But nevertheless, we managed to take out Hawkins. Hawkins revives, you can pop the Frankie special, and you're pretty much good to go. So as a hybrid option, I think Luffy is going to shine the most. And taking on some of these older Colosseums and like old clashes and arenas and stuff like that, he does shine fairly nicely because, like, I'm not going to say the content's easy by any means, but it is a lot easier than stuff like Garp challenges like Revolution Army 2 and Dofi 2, Forest, all of that, like, really sort of end game content that makes things very, like, makes these characters shine so much. However, as you guys will see here, like, with that revive of Hawkins, we don't even really use Luffy there, we just have him for utility. So there you guys go. Let's move on to the final part of the video. We're going to take on Revolution Army 2 now and really showcase where his utility shines. Alright, so the last clip of the video, we're diving in to Garp's challenge, Revolution Army 2, with a hybrid Stampede Luffy and Yamato. So that's the team, those are the supports, let's dive in. Now this team is actually a no-stall team. It's not exactly the fastest team in the entire world by any means. However, getting Bind, Despair, and Paralysis removal just with your captains is so incredibly powerful when you are doing these no-stall runs or you're doing stuff like very hard content, because it just opens the door to so many other options on your team and allows you to put on other very powerful subs to help you get around very annoying pieces of content. So, we do have Ace and Yamato as sailors. They're another very good unit for Luffy as a sailor and as a friend captain as well. However, as a friend captain, Ace and Yamato don't buff Luffy, while Luffy does buff them. And because Luffy is so self-reliant, I do find that him with Yamato works a little bit nicer. Yamato is also a super type unit, and it's very easy to get Yamato's super type, obviously, so it works quite nicely that way. As you guys will see there, we just sort of tear through the first two stages. You can use, like, the big hit counters that Luffy has, as well as the big hit counters that, like, Whitebeard has, to take out the turtles, and then you have, like, the switch of Ace Yamato as well for the burn mechanic, and I think, like, that will sort of just get you through. And this sort of long content shows where Ace Yamato does sort of shine the most, as a lot of people have sort of been saying to me on my tier list and stuff that Ace Yamato sits, like, I rate them way too highly, and I definitely see why people think that their switch ability, getting their super switch, is very, very annoying. It's very challenging. You never really see it. However, once you take them into this hard content, like stuff like Forests and Revolution Army 2 or Dofi 2, and that really, really hard endgame content, they shine better than anyone else and definitely hold their own, especially as a captain, has great utility as well. But I do see the point, and I did find that in the arenas, getting their super swap was basically impossible. But for stuff like this particular piece of content, they shine so nicely as a sailor. As you guys saw there, we used their burn mechanics to get around the lackeys around the outside. We basically focused on hack, and then we move into this stage against Ivankov and the Kama girls. They normally give us 4 turns of despair and bind on our captain, and they roll back our specials on our top and middle row by 2 turns. And this is where Luffy and Yamato's combination works so great, because not only can you remove the bind with Yamato, you can actually remove the despair with Luffy. It works out amazingly. There's a lot of paralysis on this particular fight as well. So Luffy not only removing the despair, he removes the paralysis later down the line as well, which is so damn good, because then you don't have to bring a sailor that is focused around removing paralysis. There's 2 turns of it, which are like 2 turns apart. 2 stages apart. And it's very, very annoying once you get to that stage to get like 2 characters that can remove it. And there's also a lot of attack down here as well. So another really good option would be to run Luffy with Frankie. However, I did showcase that in the arena, so I wanted to showcase the hybrid capabilities that Yamato can provide as well. So with Yamato, she can give us Wano slots as well. She gives us a chain boost mechanic, which works amazingly for Luffy as well, because Luffy is built around back-ended damage and relying on him to basically do all of the heavy lifting for you when it comes to utilizing his special. If you can then give him a Wano slot and a chain boost and a chain multiplier buff, he's just hitting ridiculously hard at the back end of a chain. 3.25 times attack is very high. 3.25 times orbs is very, very high. With a Wano slot, obviously that's matching. And he gives himself base stats as well. And he can just do really, really stupidly big numbers, which is very, very nice to see. And it's a lot of fun actually utilizing him when you hybrid him up with something like Yamato. Ace and Yamato themselves as a sailor are basically great for this particular stage. Not only do they give us a conditional boost and an attack boost, they're also going to help us get around the resilience on this stage, as there's 5 turns of resilience against Morley, and I couldn't really think of a way to get around that and then get our cooldowns back and stuff, so I opted for Usahachi. Usahachi can give us 1 turn of cooldown, as well as remove the defensive effects, and then the burn is basically just going to finish off Morley for us. We actually managed to hang on to Wano slots as well, which is very, very good, because once we move into this stage against Bello Betty and her Chicky Babe friends, they give us the first lot of paralysis. Luffy just gets around that, which makes it very, very nice. We can just bring a character to remove attack down, and I actually went for Kawamatsu. Now, funny enough, Kawamatsu actually reduces paralysis as well. However, you guys will see in 2 seconds that we are going to get another lot of paralysis on the next turn against Limburg. So it is very annoying there, because you can't then use obviously Kawamatsu's special once again. However, you can just remove that thanks to Luffy's amazing captain ability, which is very, very good. Once we move on to the next stage against Limburg, he gives us a full board of unfavorable slots. Kawamatsu actually locks slots, so we're still hanging on to 2 1 orbs, which is just absolutely absurd because this team has a lot of damage. Luffy's only a 4.5 times captain to the crew as well, so it shows that obviously this is quite old content, obviously, but we are no stalling it. Like, we are moving very, very fast. We're getting through it very, very quickly. And just by getting like that chain lock every single turn, we get that orb boost thanks to Kawamatsu there. A guaranteed orb with Ace Yamato. It just works out very, very nicely. Once we move into the Karasu stage, he gives us Despair. And obviously, Luffy, once again, can remove that with his captain ability. And then with Whitebeard, he can actually remove the Threshold. We used him to remove attack down earlier in the fight, but he can also remove Threshold, which makes it very, very handy for this stage against Karasu. Now, this is where we're going to pop our Luffy special, because we're actually not going to need Luffy on the final stage, as we do have our Ace Yamato special ready to go. And they're going to be just a much better attack booster for our entire squad. I am using the base stats of Luffy, of Sabo there, and I really should have checked how much damage Luffy was doing. But as you can see there, with that chain boundary effect, he just hits so ridiculously hard. And with his chain multiplier effect, like, he could just do some crazy, crazy stuff. Once we move into the final stage against Sabo and Koala, we're going to rely sort of on the final tap of Ace and Yamato here. We get that extra turn of cooldown thanks to the Raku support. We get Wano slots, we get a chain boost. From here, we're pretty much just hunky-dory from there. I did manage to pick up a few extra dupes of my Ace Yamato. Their final tap, I think in this video, is level 2 or 3. However, I think it might be level 3. However, I do have them at level 4 now, which is awesome. And they just hit so freaking hard at the back end of a chain. So they do some really, really cool stuff. But unfortunately, they don't give the attack boost to... I hit with Yamato because I rainbowed my Yamato, that's right. And I used that as a friend captain. There you guys go. That was the Stampede Luffy showcase. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to go down there and belt the like button for me. If you are new to the channel or you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. But most importantly, wherever you are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Lates!